How's it going, everyone? Jeff Johnson from the Gazette here. There you go. You can see the full me. It's a big head. It's a big face. Jeff Linder also here. And we are going to talk a little high school football here on the Prep Huddle podcast. Lindy, we've got 2 weeks in the books. Week 2, overall thoughts, I guess, just to start out with anything. First of all, you saw a heck of a game up at Manchester. Why don't we start with that?
Yeah,
Xavier and West Delaware, a couple of really good ball clubs ranked in their respective classes.
yeah, it was a terrific game. 23-21. Xavier held on. It was 23-7 when they scored a touchdown. Midway through the third quarter, it looked like they were in command. They were in command. The extra point got blocked, and that almost came back to be a big factor. West Delaware got touchdown, 2-point conversion, I think really late in the third quarter to get within 23-15 and scored a touchdown, I think about a half minute left to get within 23-21. They try to run up the gut for the 2-point try, and Xavier snuffed it out and held on. So, yeah, just a terrific game. It was everything we assumed it would be.
These are two teams that have a chance to go pretty deep in the playoffs, right? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Especially I would say especially West Delaware being in 3A. I think they've got a good chance to make a deep run, and Xavier does too in 4A. They've got a couple nice wins under their belt, and still some intriguing games ahead with Wash and with Pella and Clear Creek. So a lot of football to go, but I liked what I saw out of both teams a lot.
Let's kind of go through the rest of the Metro, I guess, if we could. Let me find the scores here. First of all, Cedar Rapids Kennedy was a 28-7 winner over Bettendorf. Actually, I was at that game. Weird. I think it's the first time in over 20 years, I want to say, that Bettendorf has been 0-2 to start a season. So, and the Bulldogs have scored one touchdown in those 2 games.
Yeah, 10 points in 2 games. That's not a good sign.
No, and but I thought it was a pretty good ball club. I mean, it was a good game, and really the difference was Jerron Centers, and you wrote about him a couple weeks ago. I mean, he's coaches like to use the phrase dudes or dude when they talk about a guy who's a significant player. Jerron Centers is a dude, Jeff.
Yeah, he's not a real big dude, but he's very athletic and very skilled, and he helps them a lot on both sides of the ball, especially on defense.
3 touchdown catches in this game from Carson Blitz. Also, he had an interception in the first half as Bettendorf was driving inside the Kennedy 10-yard line. So Cougars appear to be a good ball club. I think we have them ranked 4th this week, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think they're 4th
in the Gazette poll. Elsewhere, Linn-Mar goes to 2-0 with a 25-15 win over Iowa City Liberty, and at least the early returns on Tim Lovell moving across town from Marion to Linn-Mar seem to be positive, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen them yet, but 2-0. I was the one that gave them a 10th place vote in the Gazette poll this week. I think they're pretty good. But I think, like I said, it's a good litmus test coming up this week at Pleasant Valley to see exactly where they're at.
129 yards rushing for Carter Henderson in that game. So part of a 220-yard rushing attack for the Lions. So if you can run the football, you're going to be successful. Iowa City High 68-0 over Cedar Rapids Jefferson. We've talked a lot about Jefferson's issues over there, but City High with 2 lopsided wins, Jeff, over Liberty and Jefferson, and that's one of our questions, I guess, on 4 Downs this week was, would you buy stock in 3 teams? And one of those teams was Iowa City High. So I'll ask you, are you buying stock in Iowa City High. Do you think the Little Hawks are for real here, or is it yet to be seen?
Yeah, I think they're a lot like Linn-Mar. Maybe even a little bit better. But I was pretty high on them coming in. I don't think it's a championship level team, but I think it's a team that could certainly go 7-2 or 6-3 and find a way into the playoffs. I think they've got that little Cy-Hawk game this week at Ames. I think they'll go over there and win. And then they got Dowling in week 4, and I think Battle for the Boots week 5. So, and I think that'll be a really good Battle of the Boot game.
Yeah, I looked at the schedule too, and it just looked to me like it was all right, legit. At least 6 wins. If you look at schedule and considering that City High has, 2 in the back pocket already. So it looks like a real nice season underway. If the Little Hawks can continue their improvement under Mitchell Moore here. Cedar Rapids Prairie 28-14 over Dubuque Senior. And again, we've talked about Prairie's issues with having a bunch of starters out for the first third of the season. And yet they've gone and they've beaten 2 ranked teams, even though they've been shorthanded, including Senior this past week. Jeff, they had 131 yards rushing for Mikkel Taylor, who's an emerging junior running back, and Brandon Vlicko threw for 112, ran for 122. So, man, I guess the question is, when those guys come back, are some of them going to have a hard time getting back in the lineup for Prairie?
Well, I talked to Mark Bliss about that for Saturday's Note Rewind, and he said yes. He really likes the chemistry that the current team has, and some of these guys that were probably number ones on the 2 deep to start the season are going to have to work hard to find a spot, and it might not happen right away in week 4.
And I guess the most pressing question that way might be quarterback, right? With Vlicko, having complete 100% playing time right now. Deontay Fliss is one of those kids that's missing the first 3 games. That's a great question. What do you do, right? You're going to take your quarterback out. He's playing great football and bring in another guy, or I guess we'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah.
But that's certainly going to be a really interesting decision.
And I guess I'm kind of old school, and it's probably a good thing it's not my decision. They say dance with who brought you, or whatever that is. I dance with whoever got me to this point.
Yeah, 100%. Iowa City West, 42-7 win over Muscatine. You saw West on week 1, and freshman quarterback Jack Wallace appears to have a chance to really be something, right? He went 11-16 against Muscatine for 151 yards. You saw him. I mean, does he have the appearance, I guess, Jeff, of a legit big time quarterback here when he continues to get older?
Well, I'm not a scout. I don't pretend to be, but what he doesn't look like is a freshman. He's a good sized kid for 14 or 15 years old or whatever he is. And, handles himself well. He had a couple bad interceptions against Kennedy in the first week, but that's going to happen. And that's going to happen to seniors. So he's going to be fine. He's going to be a very good quarterback. And like I said, I like the way he handles himself out on the field. I think he's going to be special.
We did have a Thursday game last week, and that was Cedar Rapids Washington beating Marion 26-9. I don't know if you watched any of that game. I was able to catch most of it. It took a while for the Warriors to kind of pull away there in the second half. Looks like Wash has a pretty good defense, which it'll need this week, obviously, playing Cedar Rapids Kennedy. But offense maybe kind of a work in progress. And I thought for Marion, an 0-2 team, but a team that has a lot of capabilities. Did you watch any of that game, Jeff? What are your thoughts maybe on either of those teams?
But just kind of looking at scores, losing by a point to Clear Creek Amana in the game, it probably should have won. And then being competitive against Washington in week 2, I think even though Marion's 0-2, I think they've got to be fairly optimistic about where they're at and where they're headed.
Let's run through some of the area scores here from last week. North Linn with a second straight shutout. This one of East Buchanan, 20-0. It looks like the Lynx are for real in what Class A, I guess they're in this year.
Yeah, and you look at their schedule, and really, who's to say they can't go 8-0? There's not a team that's left that is significantly better than North Linn, or maybe even any better than North Linn. And I think the door's wide open for a very special season for them, a district championship and 7-1, 8-0 kind of year.
Boy, amazing how success in athletics can just translate up and down the line, right? And that's certainly a school where they've had a lot of success in both boys and girls sports. So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, go ahead.
Just kind of running down some of the other scores. Edgewood Colesburg gets its first 8-man win, 72-28 over Spring Mill. If I remember correctly, Edco did not score in his first game, or had 6 points maybe, and then goes to 72. Still weird for me to consider Edco an 8-win school.
Yeah, and I think let me kind of look here at Edco, but I think if I remember correctly, that first game was a shortened game because of lightning.
Okay. That's right.
Was like 12-0 or 14-0 or something like that. I'm trying to find them here.
I think you're right when I mention it.
Yeah, 14-0 against Turkey Valley. I think that game was over in the second quarter, and they didn't restart it. They just called it a 14-0 Turkey Valley win. So, they probably wouldn't have got shut out for 4 quarters.
Dyersville Beckman continues its real impressive early start, 38-0 over Anamosa on Friday night. Mark Atwater, the former Linn-Mar All-Stater and co-college standout, appears to have a nice ball club up there in Dyersville. So
yeah, and I'm really excited to go see them play this week against Monticello at D. Nelson Field in Monticello. I think that's going to be a lot of fun between two teams that are 2-0.
Belle Plaine over Madrid 20-6. Yes, that was a district game, which is seems kind of strange. That's quite a ways apart, Belle Plaine and Madrid. Starmont 42-38, kind of a surprise there over Bellevue, which went in 1-0. BGM in an 8-player game, 91-0 over Twin Cedars. Waterloo Columbus 17-6 over West Branch. Waterloo Columbus lost its first game. So a nice rebound there for the Sailors. Cascade doubles up Grant 32-16. Key High back to 8-player, beat Central City 54-8. Kind of looking at a few more scores here. Highland 48-20 over Columbus Junction. Excuse me. Turkey Valley makes Don Bosco 0-2, an 8-player 48-42. That's a surprise, right, Jeff? Don Bosco 0-2.
Yeah, that's a program that's really been elite for the last 10 years or so, however long they've been in 8-man football, and it looks like it might be a little bit of a rebuilding project this year, and that's okay.
Meskwaki Settlement School in Dunkerton, your winner there, 68-16. Easton Valley looks like one of the top 8-man programs around here, 67-8 over Elkader Central. English Valley shuts out Lone Tree 12-0. You don't get that very often in an 8-player 12-0 game. Then you mentioned Monticello off to a nice 2-0 start over Macokota, 27-6. Montezuma keeps rolling, 64-26 over Grandview Christian. Looking here, Jessup, I believe, goes to 2-0, 64-14 over Postville. Lisbon with a turnaround win, lost in week 1 to West Branch, I believe. Lisbon beat North Cedar 58-6. South Winneshiek 19-0 over Macokota Valley. Mediapolis 35-0 over Tipton. Midland over Calamus Wheatland 48-6. Have we talked at all about Cal Wheat? They have a football program. How about that?
I know. We talked about that a little bit earlier before the season. I think it's neat. That's a program that They sent their kids over to Central DeWitt to play for a long time, and I think Central DeWitt opted to end that arrangement because it probably would have made them 4A instead of 3A in football. So don't blame them. And we decided, says, hey, we'll give this a shot. And I don't know what they've got for numbers, and I know that their first 3 losses have been a little bit on the lopsided side, but I think it's neat that they're starting it, and they're not any smaller than a lot of the schools that have been doing this. And I think they're playing their home games at Midland, so and probably might be doing the same next year as they continue to explore their own facility here, maybe in 2 or 3 years.
Looks like 20 kids on the initial roster for Cal Wheat, and I heard
That's not bad.
No, not at all, not at all. And I heard they hired a coach that had no 8-man experience whatsoever. So he spent his entire summer literally boning up on the game and the differences between 8-man and 11-man. So it's
you need speed
for all.
You need fast kids.
There you go. Yeah, get to the perimeter, right?
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you about 8-man football. The 2 guys that are on the that flank the center, are those guards or tackles?
That play next to the center?
Yeah.
That's a great question. They got to be guards, right? Just from the terminology?
Well, I would think so, but I don't know.
That's a great question. Anybody out there want to help us out? Let us know. So, yeah, that's guard the center. That's always, as my cat Bingo here chimes in on what he thinks. He said guard as well. Yeah, I think it's got to be a guard because you're guarding the center. So,
okay,
we'll get the official.
That would have been my guess, but I don't know. I mean, on the other hand, they're the furthest outside of the interior linemen, so I guess you could go either way.
Yep. We'll run through a few more scores here. Alburnett with its first win, 30-14 over Pekin. Strange to see Pekin start a season 0-2. Usually a really good team. Sigourney Keota 42-12. Impressive win over Mid Prairie, which isn't that bad of a football team. I don't think. MFL Marmac doubles up Clayton Ridge 34-17. Iowa City Regina 34-6 over West Liberty. Josiah Galvan did play in that game after not playing in the first game for West Liberty. He's the West Liberty player who has offers from a number of like Big 10, Big 12 type programs. 32-26 Wilton over Northeast. Winfield Mount Union over Iowa Valley 66-42. DeWitt Central beats Comanche 14-7, and then a thriller in the Solon Mount Vernon, another edition of that game, 41-27 Solon. Jeff, Mount Vernon got out real quick. Couple scores up on Solon, but the Spartans came back and kind of assumed control of that game. And boy, how many years in a row has Solon been victorious in that game now?
Say it's 17 or 18 now. I think it's 18.
That's something because we're talking about some good Mount Vernon teams, but they are in different classes and the numbers certainly I think play a role in all that.
They're both in the same class this year, but in 2 different districts.
Okay, very good. North Scott 33-13 over Western Dubuque. Washington Iowa 22-0 over Mount Pleasant. Benton Community 10-0 over Center Point Urbana. Independence doubles up Clear Creek Man at 28-14. Big win for Waukon, Jeff, 15-0 over Cora. Week 1, not so good for the Indians, but to come back and get a win and to shut out Decorah, which was 1-0. That's a real big comeback win, right?
Yeah, really nice bounce back for them after getting hammered pretty good by Waverly, and maybe that just means Waverly's really good.
Yeah, I think so. Vinton Schellsburg 7-0 over Olwine. Another quick final there. North Fayette Valley 22-6 over Sumner Fredericksburg. Denver 32-6 over LaPorte City Union. Waverly Shell Rock, as Jeff just mentioned, was a winner 48-6 over Crestwood. And one other final here. Van Meter over Williamsburg, 20-0. Van Meter is what, our top ranked team in Class 1A. What a very tough start. And it happens every year. It's intentional. Kurt Ritchie down there at Williamsburg is like, you know what? I'm just going to play any really good team in non-district. And the Raiders got to take their lumps sometimes, but it works when it comes to district play. At least it has the last few years. So
go to Solon on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And Regina was on opening night. So play anybody. That's not a bad way to look at it, I guess. So
and a 20-point loss. Yeah, they lost by 20, but that's not a bad loss to Van Meter because I think they're really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. And Van Meter's one of those programs that really in all its sports is really really come on, I guess. What would you say? Maybe the last 10, 15 years or so?
Yeah, and it's kind of a suburban school. I think that's the next school west of Waukee, isn't it?
Yeah. And I've heard that, you get maybe some of those kids that didn't feel like they were going to get the opportunity at like a Waukee, for instance, that might open and roll at a Van Meter, to be able to play. So nothing wrong with that. So anything in the state, we hit the area scores, Jeff. Anything around the state that kind of caught your eye score-wise from last week?
Oh, just the way the teams, the 1A, 2A, 3A teams in Northwest Iowa just keep banging heads against each other. Central Lyon, Georgia Little Rock's 0-2, but I still think they're as good as anybody in 2A. With them and West Sioux and West Lyon and Boynton Hall, Rock Valley and Sergeant Bluff, those schools up there, they're just really, really good. I think we're finding out that Dyke New Hartford's pretty darn good. They beat Grundy Center this last week. Des Moines suburban teams, we've talked about them a lot. They're the cream of the crop in 5A. How about you? Anything that's really jumped out at you?
Boy, Waukee Northwest appears to be an immediate threat in 5A, right? It appears, we kind of wonder, everybody wondered when Ankeny and Ankeny Centennial, they became two high schools, how that was going to split up as far as the athletes go. But at least in very, very initial glance here, football wise, it looks like Northwest is where the kids have gone over Waukee. Northwest is 1-1 and a close loss, I think, to Valley maybe.
And then they're 0-2 with a couple close losses.
Okay.
They lost in overtime to Valley, and they lost a club. Let me find them here. And then they lost 17-10 to Dowling. So they'll be fine. They got Southeast Polk this week, and then Johnston, and then I think everything lets up a little bit for them. But they still got to play Centennial. They still got to play Ankeny. They still have to play Urbandale. So it might be a team that goes 3-6 and 4 or 4-5 and is a very, very good team.
And as we mentioned, Waukee, Des Moines Roosevelt beat Waukee to mark the first time a public school in Des Moines has beaten a suburban school since what was it?
I think.
Yeah, a long damn time.
Yeah, I think it was a losing streak of 128 games or something like that, going back to 2008.
So that's good. 100%. And Indianola was a former, or is a CIML school, I guess. Or no, they're not a CIML school, but that looks like. It looks like looks like a real strong ball club in 4A.
Right.
The way it has started out, that's our number one team, slightly ahead of defending champ North Scott. So I like 4A. I like it. There seems to be some depth there in 4A. We talked a little bit about Independence, which I think is a real good ball club. Marcus Beatty's a tremendous running back. And then you mentioned like 2A, 1A, where the Northwest Iowa schools just continue to kind of pound upon each other. We've got teams in 2A, Jeff, that we have ranked at 1, 2, 3, 4 of them already have a loss. five of our top 10 have losses in 2A, but
And is it 2A? I think it's 2A. I think 4 of the top 5 teams are in the same district. So that's going to start shaking itself out.
So it'd be what, OABCIG, Central Lyon,
West Lyon and Esterville. And I think Spirit Lake is to the west of them all.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that is going to shake itself out. There's going to be some good teams that might not make the playoffs. So,
yeah.
And then we mentioned 1A where we have Van Meter, unanimous number 1. And Class A, West Hancock, early, it looks very impressive. That's our number 1 ranked team. We got Lisbon at 5, North Lynn at 7. North Tama in there at 9 after a couple of big wins. Actually did a story that'll be online here very shortly on the Redhawks, who beat Belle Plaine for the first time in 9 years to open the season, and got their quarterback threw for 368 yards, which was a school record in a win over Agweiser, as you call them.
That's not a team that throws the ball very much usually. That's usually a team that grinds it and beats teams, 14-6 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's actually a pretty good story. Taylor Worth, who played quarterback at UNI, or was a quarterback on the UNI program, came to North Tama last year and was a wing T guy, and so he ran that wing T and wasn't working very well, and he just kind of said, well, why don't we just change it and go spread, because he felt like that was what might suit his team best. And ever since then, the Redhawks have literally taken off. So and then you get a quarterback, Capriva that throws for 368. So I think he made the right choice there.
Sounds like
that's good coaching. That's good coaching, So we've got Anita Cam at number 1 and 8 player. Montezuma in there at 3 as the only 2 area teams. So should we run ahead here to this week's games?
Yeah.
Let's run down the schedule here. These are in no particular order, just taking them off varsity bound here. So they're kind of in alphabetical order. And then we'll hit the games that we think might be pretty big games here.
Yeah. You got one Thursday night game tonight over at Brady Street.
Yep. Davenport Central and Jefferson play at Brady Street. And actually there's one out in Northwest Iowa, which I thought was kind of weird. Smaller game. Pocahontas and Sioux Central, according to Varsity Bound, play tonight at Pocahontas. So if you leave now, you might be able to get to Pocahontas by game time, Jeff. I don't know.
Pocahontas got a nice win last week over South Central Calhoun.
There you go. That's probably about 3 hours from Cedar Rapids, more or less.
Yeah, probably. Probably would have been 4 before Highway 20 went 4-lane, but Pocahontas is a little bit northwest of Fort Dodge.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So schedule area games. East Buchanan is at Starmont. Lisbon plays at Alburnett. Big Lynn County rivalry there. Jeff mentioned the little Cyhawk Trophy on the line when Iowa City High plays at Ames. Cascade is at Anamosa. Looks like Dubuque Senior is at Davenport North to take on the Wildcats. Sigourney Keota goes to Centerville to play tomorrow night, Friday night. Calamus Wheatland at Elkader Central for homecoming. Waterloo Columbus hosts Vinton Schellsburg. We've got North Cedar hosting Pekin. Have those teams ever played? That seems like quite a drive.
That'd be quite a haul. They must not be in the same. Well, they might be in the same district. Pekin's taken a couple shots already. I think Cardinal beat them in week 1. I'm guessing that's Cardinal's first win over Pekin in a long time.
Yeah. Cardinal might not have a bad ball club. I think it's 2-0 here in the early going. So Durant and Northeast play at Durant on Friday night. We've got Central City at Edco. Looking at some of the rest of the games here around the area. We've got North Tama goes to Hudson. That's a rivalry game between a couple close teams. Springville goes up to Lansing Key. Lone Tree and HLV play at Lone Tree. Maquoketa Valley is home to West Branch. And that was a nice little thing that happened last year. It was kind of a neat deal where they Maquoketa Valley wanted to honor a couple of kids that had died prematurely. Jeff, I know there one was a junior high girl that was going to be a good athlete, if I remember correctly, and then there was a kid who was going to be a senior who accidentally drowned over that previous summer. And
and I touched on the girl quite a bit during Maquoketa Valley's really good basketball season. She would have been a senior with that group, and sounds like she would have been a great athlete as well.
Yeah, and I think Maquoketa Valley had its game postponed by COVID that week. Its opponent had to cancel, so at the last second, West Branch kind of stepped in and decided that it would do the right thing and play at Maquoketa Valley. So the Maquoketa Valley folks could honor the two students that we talked about. So anyway, they're playing again.
They're becoming king and queen as well.
Yes, that's right. Honorary king and queen. That is correct. Absolutely. Must have certainly a very emotional night out there last year, but they're playing again, and that is Friday night at Maquoketa Valley. Colonesco at Meskwaki Settlement School. Eastern Valley at Midland. Iowa City Regina is at Mid Prairie on Friday night. Montezuma at home against BGM. Could that be a pretty good 8-man game, Jeff?
I think Montezuma is going to, score pretty much. They're going to score at will against just about everybody that they play.
Sure.
I don't know if BGM will be able to keep up, that kind of pace with them.
Bellevue is at North Lynn on Friday night. I think we're getting to more of the bigger schools here in a second. Rockford at Turkey Valley. Trying to hit all the schools here. Clayton Ridge at South Winneshiek. Scrolling down the list here. Wilton hosts Highland. Dubuque Hempstead is at home against Iowa City West. Could be a real good game down in Davenport, Jeff. North Scott at Davenport Assumption. Actually, that's at North Scott. But that's
a really good game.
Really good teams. Pleasant Valley hosts Linn-Mar, so that may be a little bit more of a proving game for the Lions in that one. Tipton hosts Mount Vernon. Benton Community hosts Marion. Cedar Falls is at Cedar Rapids Prairie. So again, that early season tough schedule for Prairie with its kids, some of its kids out. We'll see if the Hawks can persevere again. Clear Creek Amana hosts Washington, Iowa. Crestwood hosts Waukon. Maquoketa Comanche, and that is at Maquoketa. South Tama at Grinnell. Independence hosts West Liberty. Kingston Stadium, it'll be Cedar Rapids, Washington, and Cedar Rapids, Kennedy. Iowa City Liberty hosts Western Dubuque. Cedar Rapids Xavier is at Dubuque Wahlert. Actually, that game's at Loras College. MFL Marmac hosts Osage. Jeff mentioned the game he's going to be at Friday night at Monticello's Dean Nelson Field. Dyersville Beckman comes to town. Kind of a rivalry game there. Oline hosts New Hampton. Pella and Indianola is another game out in the state that should be really interesting. Solon and Williamsburg, I think Jeff touched on that one as well at Solon. Decorah at West Delaware. And another one, Center Point Urbana at LaPorte City Union. So anything out there that, other than your game, maybe that really kind of intrigues you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a area game, I guess.
Well, you mentioned Assumption North Scott. That's going to be a really good game. Again, I'm really eager to see how Prairie does against Cedar Falls and how Linn-Mar does against Pleasant Valley. I think those are two really good tests, and we'll see where those two teams are at. I think City High will be okay over at Ames. Did we mention that Regina and Mid Prairie aren't going to play? That's a forfeit.
Oh, it is. Okay. That's from
Mid Prairie's low on kids. I think COVID might be a factor in that, and I don't know if there's some injuries as well. But Mid Prairie's low on kids, and it's not going to play Regina this week.
So that is not. It's not a no contest. It is an actual forfeit, correct?
It's a forfeit.
Okay, and but that is not a district game, correct?
Right.
Okay, very good. I'm just looking at a couple other games. Harlan, Sergeant Bluff, Luton out in western Iowa. That could be a very interesting game. Urbandale and Valley play in Des Moines. Dowling and Ankeny. There's another potentially really good game. So a lot of solid games out there. You mentioned where you're going to be, or why don't you tell everybody again where you're going to be and where they can hit you up?
I'll be in Monticello for the Panthers and the Blazers of Dyersville Beckman. And you're going to be at John Wall Field, right?
Yeah, I'll be Prairie and Cedar Falls at that one. On my Twitter handle, by the way, at JEJE66, at JT Linder for Jeff Linder. KJ Pilcher, our compatriot here, wasn't able to hit the podcast today. He's going to be at Kingston, correct?
Yeah. Yep. He'll be there for Kennedy and Wash.
Any thoughts on that game?
I haven't seen Wash. I saw Kennedy in their opener. I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm sure Kennedy's going to be hungry after getting beat by the Warriors last year. I guess if I had to choose, I'd say Kennedy by maybe a touchdown.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's about right. I think you and I have the same kind of thoughts on that game. I think too that Kennedy's going to be awfully hard to beat, and it's going to be a very motivated team after Wash really surprised them, last season. So, I think that's about it. We want to encourage everybody to read the Green Gazette. And if you're a subscriber, you can get that on your computer. It actually is it's a newspaper, basically. Our fine Sam Paxton and Ryan Sukamel, our copy editors, do a great job of putting together an actual front page, a Green Gazette of nothing but high school football, basically. So you can catch that at thegazette.com. If you're, like I said, if you're a subscriber, you get that automatically. It's really just like another newspaper, basically, with all the high school games and results and game stories and things like that. So that's a pretty cool thing. Obviously, we'll be online. Everything gets online very rapidly after games on Fridays at thegazette.com. And we'll have some good features in the actual newspaper itself. I mentioned Gabe Capriva from North Tama. It's kind of a feature story that will be online here shortly in the newspaper tomorrow. And I know KJ is going to have something leading into Friday night for Saturday as well. So, all right, you're going to make an Iowa State pick, Jeff, since that's all the rage this week?
Oh, I probably better not.
I think Iowa State gets them. That's all I'm going to say. So that's going to be in print. So I got to stick with it.
All right, you do that.
And also our friend Nathan Ford will have a wrap up of the night's actions as well. Can't forget Nathan on Friday night. He does a great job with video and things like that. So tons of stuff out there. Tomorrow night looks like we're gonna have a nice weather night, Jeff, again. So knock on wood.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for reading and watching, folks. We appreciate all your support. We love high school sports, and we're going to continue to do it to the best of our abilities. For the Prep Huddle podcast, Jeff Johnson here, Jeff Linder over there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hooking us up here, Nathan, and we'll talk to you all again soon. Have a good weekend.